We got the dance mix version going here. Live from the Echo Network studios in downtown Royal Oak, this is Odd Musings. I'm your host, Scott Zambelli, with my co-host,
Alan Tong.
Welcome aboard, Al.
Glad to be here.
All right. Brett Pinson is not in studio today, so we're going wild with that dance mix version of our song at the beginning. Yeah, we're having a great time. Brett is hopefully having a safe trip home from his adventures at the Tampa Bay Comic Con this last weekend. From the pictures, it looks like he had a blast. He got to hang out with our friends at t-24.com. That's TEEMINUS24.com. And he hung out with them. Our friend Kevin Meinert was down there also, who we were recently at San Diego Comic Con with. And good times were had by all. So welcome aboard, Al.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we're going to get into a little bit of the 501st. Al is a member of there. You've just recently passed your 2-year mark?
I was 2 years in May.
Awesome. And you're at about 70 troops or so now.
68, I think.
Oh, approaching. Big 7-0. So, for those who don't know, troops are what we call the outings, where we suit up and we do various events, charities, parades, and all kinds of other things. But before we get into all that, I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsors. We got Loringer Family Chiropractic, who has been one of our original sponsors from the beginning. They're great, loyal sponsors, and we really would appreciate for you to check them out. You can go online to see them at LoringerFamilyChiropractic.com or visit our sponsors page at oddmusings.com, where we have the links right to their website there. They provide quality chiropractic care. Brett is a longtime patient of theirs, and my daughter used them for a while. They're also great care. They truly do treat you like family. Actually, better than family. If it was treated like my family, they'd be telling, do it yourself, get out of here, get a job.
Suck it up.
Suck it up. Yeah, but no, they do awesome care. They also have a great collection of essential oils they sell and other products. So check them out. And if you don't live in the Belleville or Dexter area, where their 2 offices are, still, you can give them a call. They'd be glad to refer you to someone in your area. And then, like we said before, the essential oils, you can also order those. So you can order those. So give them a call and give them your business. And our other sponsor is, well, me, TeamTitansOfRealEstate.com. Why? Because you matter. Give us a call at Team Titans, 586-549-6096 for any of your real estate needs, or go to our website at TeamTitansOfRealEstate.com, where you can check us out there. Now to the fun stuff. Star Wars.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. So we're going to start off, we'll talk about the 501st a bit and move on from there. So this weekend with the 501st, we had one of our highlights of the year every year, the Maker Fair at the Henry Ford Museum.
Yeah, so this year was a little bit interesting, where our Star Wars table was actually located directly across from the Star Trek exhibit.
Yeah, they have the Henry Ford Museum has the special area where they have a featured exhibit. They travel the country, these different exhibits, and they're at the Henry Ford Museum. And like you said, it's the Star Trek exhibit, which is pretty cool. They have actual costumes and props and some models from the shows.
I think one of the more popular items they had there was an actual Borg regeneration alcove. I think everybody steps in the alcove and takes a picture, and there's actually 2 alcoves, one with the Borg in it, and then you get to step in the empty one. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I was telling Al off air, unfortunately I had suited up really early when I went through there, and it was kind of fun seeing the reactions of Star Trek fans seeing a stormtrooper walk through. They're like, wait, what? But I saw that thing and with the Borg thing, and I'm like, oh, what a cool looking display. And I kept going. It didn't even occur to me you were allowed to actually stand in it to get photos. So I missed out on that opportunity. But you had some really good photos in there.
Yeah, I got one with the helmet off so you can see my face, and I got another one with the helmet on for the full stormtrooper effect, Star Wars. And then they had the Jeffries tube that you could crawl through. And I don't know how those guys work on ships in those things. I mean,
you had to bend very low to fit in that thing.
well, I mean, if there's something overhead, you got to sit, reach up, or, bend over or whatever, but you've only got a small amount of space. How that happens, I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of a friend of mine who served in the Navy, and he was on submarines, and he always talked about how small the spaces were, and you kind of make use of whatever. So I kind of picture it being like that. But yeah, just looking at it, I know I couldn't have crawled through that tube in my stormtrooper gear because I couldn't bend down low enough, I don't think.
No, I think that's probably the one defense that Starfleet has over the Empire, right? Is that if they build all their ships with Jeffries tubes.
That and stairs.
Yeah.
There's stairs in there.
They would have never found Leia on the blockade runner if she were hiding in a Jeffries tube.
That's true. Very true. But so with the Star Trek exhibit too, they had some interesting things about the history. One of the things we were talking about earlier was Lucille Ball actually played a crucial role in the development of Star Trek, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'd read something about that, but I didn't follow through with the whole article there. But I guess she was a major influence to keep it going.
Yeah, in the exhibit, they actually had this thing up there where you could read it, and so Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz owned a production studio. I can't remember the name. It was like Luces, or it was combining Lucille and Desi-Lu.
Yeah,
it was Desi-Lu Studios or something like that, and they wanted some groundbreaking entertainment, and they were looking for shows. They came across Star Trek, and the original pilot was not a success, as people now know. It's 50 years later. It's a big success pop culture wise, but at the time it was too brainy. They said they need more action, so then they revamped it and came out with a new pilot, which is where they then recast Pike with Captain Kirk. We ended up with the legend that is William Shatner, which rumor mill now is William Shatner might be coming back as Kirk. Have you heard that?
I have not heard that.
Yes, the Quentin Tarantino R-rated Star Trek version that's coming out, the Pulp Fiction of Star Trek. The rumor mill is Chris Pine is not coming back, and the rumor mill is saying Quentin Tarantino is looking at Shatner as an older. Shatner as an older Shatner, as an older Kirk. So that'll be interesting. So we'll see. Personally, I want to see him rip the shirt off and do hand-to-hand combat. I love how Kirk has like the one judo throw he does over and over again. But speaking of Kirk and hand-to-hand combat, in that Star Trek exhibit, you also had the Gorn.
Yep.
The original Gorn, which is so funny. It looks so different on film than in person.
Yeah. The colors were different, and he's a lot smaller in studio. Yeah. So that was cool seeing that. Oh, I got sidetracked. Lucille Ball. So, anyways, they were looking for Star Trek. They refinanced it, but when they did the budget, the Borg. It's like the Borg. The Borg did their budget, and they're like, "This show is way too expensive to do," and they ended up vetoing the show or voting it down. But Lucille Ball, with her position in the company, she had overriding authority, so she vetoed the board and said, "We're doing this," and the rest is history. Interesting side note too. This is from a separate thing. One of the iconic things about Star Trek is the teleporters, right? Well, part of that budget cut, I remember this from a past article I read, is the original show, they were going to have them use shuttles to get down to the surface. But the budget was so expensive for the special effects of having the shuttle flying down to planets and coming back. It was a super expensive special effect. So they were like, well, what's something we could come up with that would be cheaper? And they came up with this idea, well, what if we teleport them? And they came up with this special effect that was very cost effective. And it's not one of the most iconic things on there. but anyways, that was cool. So much cool stuff in there. Any other things stick out to you in the Star Trek exhibit? Actually, speaking of the transporters, I mean, they actually had a small little video area where you could stand on those transporter pads, and they would run it. They would film you, and I guess run it through the computer, because you're standing there, and all of a sudden you sparkle or whatever, and you disappear, and then on the TV screen you appear on a planet or on a ship or whatever, and they also give you a
phaser,
a fake little phaser, right? And so you have to shoot the bad guys or destroy the bomb, or whatever it is. And then when you complete that, you sparkle, and they send you back to the pad. Unfortunately, you don't get to keep a recording of that.
Oh, you're only watching it.
You only watch it on the screen. But in our case, we actually had one of the guys. We had 4 stormtroopers on the pad.
Nice.
And we transported to a planet where we were supposed to destroy this energy thing that was going to explode. So we had to disintegrate it. But as we were doing it, rocks were falling, so we were all ducking. It was like really perfect. And at the end, it says you saved the mission, transport back, and the rocks are still falling. And when we transported back onto the pad, we were still like ducking or whatever from the rock. So as we left the planet, it's how we appeared back on the pad. So we thought, wow, the guy's girlfriend was recording it off the TV. So when we were done, she goes, I missed it. We're like, how could you miss it? He goes, somebody kept calling, and I kept putting it on. I kept hanging up. So, and she goes, I just, didn't get a chance. I go, so like the 2 hours before, nothing, and the 30 seconds that we're filming this, 5 phone calls, and it turns out it's the same person who called 5 times. And it was for like some stupid reason. It wasn't
your car warranty needs to be extended.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, so we missed like the perfect video of a video. But,
that's painful.
Yeah, but the line was so long that we didn't go back and do it again.
Yeah,
plus, you only get one. It's that spur of the moment, spontaneous acting stuff.
Yeah, you would never recreate it.
Yeah,
that could have been the next Star Trek movie. It's a Star Wars crossover.
Yeah.
But and then the other really cool thing in there was the captain's chair.
Yes,
you got to sit in the captain's chair.
Yes. Well, no, I didn't, because I was in my stormtrooper armor.
You stood next to it.
So I stood next to it, and they actually have a picture of me standing next to it, scratching my helmet. Like, how am I supposed to sit in this thing?
Right. Yeah. For those who don't know, when you wear a stormtrooper arm kit, it's not the easiest thing to sit in.
Yes.
Or to maneuver in.
Yeah, I think, as a matter of fact, I only know like 1 or 2 people who it fits so well that they actually can sit in it.
Yeah, depending on the seat, I can, but not. It depends. Like, actually, at this event, they have those party bikes that go around where you have like 6 or 8 people sitting around pedaling at the same time. Mm-hmm. I was able to sit on that. Mm-hmm. Somehow I crawled up over it. Getting down was harder, but I got down and then did the pedaling, and everyone's like, it's a stormtrooper on a bike. So that was the Star Trek exhibit. But let's start off a little bit. Let's take a step back here. So we are both members of the 501st Legion. We're in the Great Lakes Garrison, which is a subunit of the 501st for this area, for the state of Michigan. And let's talk a little bit about who the 501st are. Who are they, Al?
Well, 501st is actually a volunteer costume club. Basically, most of us are Star Wars fans. Well, all of us are Star Wars fans, and
you gotta be a fan of some sort to put in the time and money and pain that we do to do this.
So we prepare whatever costumes that you want, but there are minimum standards, because the ultimate goal is for screen accuracy.
Right.
And so when we complete our costumes, we have to submit them for approval. Mm-hmm. And then once they're approved, you're in. And we troop, hospitals, conventions,
a lot of charity events,
birthday parties, marches, things like that.
Weddings, Janice, if you're watching.
Oh, yeah.
We both were present at Janice's wedding.
Yes. And
she had an awesome awesome Star Wars themed wedding. Then you also were at the Redford Theater not long ago, which would have been an awesome, fun one to do again.
The Redford Theater where Janice had her wedding.
Yep, they had a big marathon, didn't they? A Star Wars marathon, was it?
They had the original trilogy on the large screen.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I didn't get to see them because I was actually working the event, so I don't know which versions they were. But Janice and her husband Roy were there, and we recreated some of the pictures. I saw
that. Yes, it made me jealous. I wasn't there. I unfortunately was working. But as Al said, we are volunteers. It's an all-volunteer organization, and people put in their requests, and we do our best to accommodate all requests. But sometimes we can't, just because either it's in a weekend where we have a ton of different events. You try to choose a holiday or a Star Wars movie release date where everybody wants stormtroopers and everybody else present. It might be hard to find volunteers, or it could just be it's a weekend where we don't have many people available. So we do our best to accommodate everyone, but sometimes we can't.
Yeah, sometimes we only end up with, one or two people. I mean, especially like up north where we don't have as many members.
But the reason why we do this is to raise money for charities. So, people say, well, how do I hire you? What does it cost to hire you? There's no cost, but we do ask you to make a donation to a children's charity on behalf of the 501st. That's why we do this. And if you don't know it, have a charity that you have in mind. Make-A-Wish is one we do a lot of work for, and then there's some others as well. So we can recommend one too if you don't have one. But that's what we do it for. We do it for the fun. We do it, to bring smiles to people's faces and to do it for good causes. As our slogan is, bad guys doing good. I would argue we're the good guys, though. Those rebels are the terrorists.
Yes.
They're the one breaking the Palpatine's rightfully given powers, legally given powers, I should say.
And speaking of rebels, right, 501st is exclusively all the Imperial troopers. Yes. Whereas the rebels, of course, includes, Leia's, the X-Wing pilots, and the Jedi.
Wookiees.
Yeah.
That's the Rebel Legion, which is our sister organization. It's actually two separate organizations, but we do coordinate quite a bit together. We often do events, and to be honest, at least in our area, geographically, as you go around the country, different ones run differently, but in our area, 80% probably are in both. The membership is probably both 501st and Rebel Legion, so we share all the information with each other. And
I'll be honest, when I first joined, I had no idea there was even a distinction between the two.
Yeah. Then there's even other subgroups out there, the Mando Mercs, as they're called. Because the 501st is about screen accuracy, you can only do Mando, we call them Mandos, Mandalorians. That would be like people think of Boba Fett or Jango Fett as Mandalorians. Technically, they're not Mandalorians. They just wear Mandalorian armor. Little distinction, but that's what they think.
You just opened up a big.
I know. Well, and I think we're going to learn that a little more in the Mandalorian series. That will Pascal is the actor. He was Prince Oberyn in Game of Thrones. We were trying to remember his name earlier. But anyways, because we are about the movie accuracy, groups like the Mandalorian Mercs came up, where they are all customized. They do their own costumes inspired by the Mandalorian armor that we know from the movies. So in a group like that, you have a lot of creative freedom where you can do whatever you want, which will be interesting moving forward, because as they enlarge, like through things like the Mandalorian series, things like the Clone Wars cartoons and things, what we know about Mandalorian culture and everything keeps growing. And it'll be curious if we get to a point where customizable Mandalorians become the norm. For instance, X-Wing pilots. You are allowed to have customized helmets in the Rebel Legion because in the movies, each pilot had their own helmet. So if you are your own pilot, you theoretically would have customized your own helmet. So it'll be interesting to see where the Mandalorian storyline goes moving forward in movies and shows and everything else. But
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that series, because it's an area that is interesting but really hasn't been explored, other than Django and Boba Fett, who, for as fierce a bounty hunter he is, really didn't meet the greatest of fates, and you're like, what?
That's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Pedro Pascal, Tony's chiming in here. Thank you, Tony. Pedro Pascal is the actor playing the Mandalorian coming up. Also has Carl Weathers in it and things like that. So that's really cool. So as we were saying, people ask us, well, how do we hire you and things? The easiest way, go to the501st.com. That's 501st.com. That takes you to the official 501st Legion boards. And there's it's in like the upper right corner there. Request an appearance.
Request an appearance or something like that, yeah.
Click on that, fill out the form, and then when you type in the location of it, it'll go to the proper garrison. That ties into all of our garrisons nationwide, worldwide, I believe. And the request goes in, and then that's where it goes into our internal forums where the volunteers we keep track of, and depending on what our schedules are, we all try to accommodate that. So that's how you do it. You just go on 501st.com and put the information. Even small events as small as little birthday parties and things like that get requested, and we do make appearances at those as well. So check that out. So we were talking, you got 4 approved costumes right now.
Correct.
All right, so what are those? Let's go over those again.
All right, so I've got the iconic original trilogy Stormtrooper, just like the helmeted one right here.
Which, for the real nerds, these are called TKs.
Right.
Do you know what TK stands for?
Is that Trooper Knight?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Trooper Knight was the original designation before Stormtrooper.
Right. And then I also have a heavy weapons trooper, which is a stormtrooper that has a special backpack, and he carries one of the big, gigantic, long guns. In my case, I have the DLT-19. I believe the heavy weapons trooper is a character from one of the video games, and not actually
Correct.
in the movie.
I believe he's originally from the Battlefront game.
Right.
Which, they're very similar to Sand Troopers. For those of you who only know the movies, the iconic Sand Troopers that they're very similar to that. There's differences, not quite as dirty, but also the different backpack.
Right.
Some other minor features that are different, but to visualize, it's very similar to that.
Right. And then, of course, I have an Imperial officer, a staff officer, which is the black version, not the line officer, which is the olive version. So mine is the black staff officer.
Did you also have a cape? Did you have one?
I did. I added, after Rogue One came out, I added one of those Rogue One capes.
Is it still considered the same costume with the Rogue One cape?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's actually an option that's been added to the original.
I gotta say, the cape does look sweet on the officer outfit, I think.
And believe it or not, even though it looks like the TK is hotter than the officer, I think because of the thickness of the material of my uniform.
It's wool, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is very warm, so I wear my officer a lot when we do like the Thanksgiving Day parade. It's outdoors. It's the Friday after Thanksgiving. The possibility of it being cold is pretty high.
I have foolishly been a TK for all of those, and I freeze because somehow it always, whenever I do it, it ends up being like a -20 wind chill, and I'm just in the. Now, for those who don't know, a stormtrooper is basically plastic over spandex.
Yes.
That is your only protection. And it becomes whatever the temperature is. So if you're in 100-degree weather, your suit is 100 degrees. If you're in -20, your suit is -20.
Yeah.
It's just whatever the outdoor temperature is.
The plastic is very conductive to the elements.
Yes.
So the last...
But with being wool, it doesn't breathe as well, does it? So you're pretty hot.
It's warm.
Yeah.
And then last year, because of the snow flurries and the rain, I put the Rogue One poncho over it as well. So I had an extra layer of protection, and I was comfortable the whole time. If you want to, you also put on, the black officer's gloves, so you're covered from pretty much head to toe, and it's pretty warm.
That's nice.
The one thing, of course, is that everybody's like, Stormtrooper, officer, stormtrooper, officer, everybody wants to see they want their pictures taken with the TK.
The TK looks better,
yeah.
But when you're doing a long event, the TK is so uncomfortable.
Right.
You can't sit. Even how you walk, your walk changes, and when I've done it where, and I know you've done long troops too, where I've done it where I've been in it 6 to 8 hours.
Yes.
You are sore the next day.
You've discovered new muscles you didn't even know existed,
right?
Because
you got to do everything different.
Yeah, because you're favoring.
And if you drop anything,
yes,
you need help. You can't reach down to pick it up.
And then my last costume is the Navy Trooper, which is, let me see, they would be like the guys with the black egg-shaped helmets in the detention center of New Hope.
And they have like 2 square boxes up here, and
and the big cowl around the back.
Yeah.
And there's a couple different versions of those. I'm the most simple one. And that one also is also very, very, that was actually hottest of all of my costumes. But it's also probably the least common one. Not a lot of people do that because the helmets are hard to find.
Yeah. And speaking of the helmets and the costumes, one of the questions we're always asked is at events, people are like, well, first of all, the number one question is that hot in there? The answer is always yes, unless you're Slave Leia, then it's probably not.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I think every costume is pretty hot. Although the Wookiee costumes I hear breathe really well because it's really a mesh suit. Even though there's a lot of hair, I hear if there's a breeze, it goes through it well. But
I think a lot of them also wear some sort of vest, ice or water vest or something.
Cool them
yeah.
Off. Yeah. But almost always the answer is yes, especially the Vaders. Because now with Vader, you're wearing a full body leather outfit covered by wool on top of it. So you're very hot in those.
The new Kylos are not friendly either because they're like 3 layers wrapped.
Yeah. So if you're at an event and you're wondering, is our costume hot? The answer is yes.
And don't ask us, are you hot? Because the answer is always, I consider myself pretty good looking.
Until I take the helmet off. But so there's that. But another common question is like, how much did you spend on that? And where do I buy a stormtrooper outfit, let's say? And it's kind of a tough question to answer because there is no one size fits all option out there. You don't just go buy a stormtrooper outfit off the rack.
Right.
Like Hyper was telling someone, he's like, hey, you don't just go in and say, I'm a 42 long, and there you go. It's because we're going for screen accuracy, and all of us have different body types, sizes, weights, heights. We're all different. We buy what's called kits. It's a stormtrooper kit. So there are people out there who do the molding. They have the molds and they vacuum seal and make the parts. And you order the parts, but then it's up to us to cut them, trim them, fit them, make all the under straps.
Right.
You learn how to do buckles and snaps and rivets.
Sewing.
Yeah. There a lot of stuff you got to do yourself. And even with this, for instance, with this helmet, I had to hand paint elements of it. Some of it are decals. And I had to assemble this whole helmet. It's 3 separate. Actually, this one is 2 pieces: the back piece and the front face, and then I had components, the earpieces and all that. But you got to learn how to do a lot, and it's not a fast overnight process. You can't rush it. Myself, you work and you're doing things, you're learning. Your first suit, it could take you a year and a half to finish, and it might take you multiple approval processes. There's if you rush it, you're going to mess it up.
Right. And there are all the guidelines are on 501st.com.
Yep, if you go there, or if you're looking for specifically a stormtrooper, you can go to whitearmor.net to start your search there as well, because not all kits are equal. So you want to do your research. When you first decide to make this move, it's very easy to have that enthusiasm. You're like, I'm going to go buy something, and you go on eBay and you buy something. rule number one is don't buy off of eBay unless you absolutely know who the seller is, because so often you'll get stuff that is not quality or approvable.
Right.
At least approvable without major modification. So do your research first. If you don't know what to do, contact your local garrison. Find out ways of volunteering as what we call NCS, non-costume support. That will have you come to our events with us. You help out the people who are in costume. You meet them, and you start learning. You start figuring out, what kit do you use? Like this helmet is what's called an ATA helmet. There's also a Novos. There used to be one called FX.
AP.
There's AP. There's many different makers out there, and you want to know what works for you. Even like different body types. If you're a larger person, AP might be the way to go because it's all larger armor that they make. Whereas if a lot of people don't know, in the movies, the stormtroopers, the average stormtrooper I think was 5'9" or 5'8" and 160 pounds or something like that for the original screen ones. Well, I'm 5'10", now 210, 210 pounds or so, 209 actually as of this morning, down 24 pounds, but I'm still a lot bigger than what the original suit was. So I have to make special modifications to make it all fit me, but to still look screen accurate.
Right. So I'm a little bit shorter. I'm 5'8", 185, 190, something like that. So
you're closer to the actual stormtrooper size.
But I'm still shorter than what the kit was made. So I still had to trim, an inch off my legs, a little bit off my arm. Because that kit was made more for the normal population out there. 5'9", so I'm an inch shorter than what the average.
I shouldn't say made for, and they're trying to figure, okay, the average buyer is going to be 5'8" to 6 feet.
Yeah.
So they tried to make a kit that would accommodate all of those ranges instead of a specific size.
Right.
So, and then even then, you got to learn what modifications you can make, where you can make your cuts to make it fit you, but still be approvable.
Right, because some detail you're not allowed to cut off.
Right. So the moral of the story is, don't let your enthusiasm make you just jump in, buy all kinds of stuff, start putting stuff together without researching, because chances of you doing it accurately on your own without any guidance is going to be very, as C-3PO would say, 3 billion to 1 odds, type thing. So, but it's a fun process, and when you make your own suit like that at the end, you do learn a lot. You also, in building your suit, you learn how to maintain it too, because that's the other thing, wear and tear. You will get cracks.
Yeah. I found that when I was building my suit, right, at first you're looking at, 50 parts, maybe something like that, out of the box, and then you have to trim all the flashing off and everything. You're like, this is going to take forever. But once you get like your chest and your back together and you put it on like a vest, you're like, there's something there. You start to see pieces come together, and you're like,
and when you, now you got did you get the Novos for your first kit?
Yes.
Okay, so you had the helmet pre-assembled.
Yes.
Okay, so like for me, my first step was I made the helmet first, and when I finished it and put it on that first time, it was like,
well, I guess the same thing. As soon as I opened my box, the first thing I did was put on my helmet and go, ooh.
Run around, take pictures and selfies with the helmet on.
Yeah.
But it's a blast. But I would say, and tell me if it's a similar thing for you. When I first went down this path, it was because I was a Star Wars fan. Mm-hmm. But then I did my first troop, and I just remember the joy it brought to people. And one in particular was this little blonde-headed girl who looked just like how my daughter looked at that age. And I just remember she just had her arms out, and she's like, I love you. And she was like 4 or something, and she wanted a hug, so I gave her a hug, and that completely changed it. It went from trooping because I was a fan to realizing the power you had in bringing happiness into other people.
One of my favorite things, it's a little bit sneaky, is like at a lot of the Comic Cons or whatever, you'll always end up with a mom or a dad, and they've got maybe a 2 or 3 year old kid on their shoulders. They're walking around, and the first thing you're thinking, like, why would you be hauling around a 20-pound kid, all through Comic Con without a stroller or whatever it is? But, they're probably big fans, right? But the kid, of course, when he or she's on the shoulder, is looking behind the parent, and you sneak up behind the parent and you start doing thumbs up or high fives or fist bumps with the little kid, and you see the kid smiling and laughing, and the father or the mother is like, what's going on? And they turn around like, whoa. And then that's usually when, like, oh, we got to get a picture, and then by that time the kid is just, ear to ear and trying to, and then also it preserves the tradition for the next generation, because if you get the kid early at 3 or 4, and you have some fun with them, hopefully that translates in the future.
Yeah, a lot of times kids, you get all a range of reactions from kids. Some absolutely embrace you and love you, and then you go to they're completely terrified of you, and that can happen too. But it is amazing the power of the high five or the fist bump. Yeah. You put your arm out for a high five, and the kid comes forward, and then you're okay. Once you made contact with the high five, it's like, okay, you're safe now.
Or sometimes,
the cards, the trading cards go a long way.
Or the ET finger thing.
Oh, there you go.
That's, if they touch the tip of your finger, then you probably at least broke the ice there. And that's pretty fun.
Another technique I'll use if the kid is like a little nervous and is afraid of having a picture, and the parents are like, come on, let's get a picture. I'll be like, I heard you were going to be here, so I came all this way just for you. And then I ask them, like, is it okay if I get a picture with you? And then they're like, oh, okay.
I've never tried that, but I might have to add that to my repertoire.
The repertoire. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It really is. It's another event, for instance, we do the Star Wars night at Comerica Park with the Tigers, and I haven't done it in a couple years, but I think they still do. Do you guys do the parade around the whole outside of the park? Like you go down on the field and go around, or did they stop that?
They've done it differently. I think it depends on who is coordinated with the Tigers.
So what we used to do is we go on the field, and then we walk around the wall, the outer wall, so we're on the field but inside.
You're on the warning track.
Yes, there you go. And I just remember as we were walking past the Tigers dugout, my first year doing this, Miguel Cabrera was out there and some others, and they were just prepping in the dugout. They were getting their gear together or something, and we're all walking in formation, and as we're approaching, they kind of glance over, and it's just so funny how they just all melted into little 6-year-olds. You just see them standing, and they're like, what's going on? Like they looked very surprised that we were walking past, but you just see their whole demeanor change. Like, oh my God, it's my childhood right here. So it's just really cool when you see stuff like that.
Yeah, and we also do a lot of minor league games too.
Yeah, the Whitecaps is a big presence for us.
Whitecaps, Lugnuts, Lansing Lugnuts, and I'm not even. I don't know that there's a home field at Jimmy John Field. I just think there are teams that play there. I'm not sure who actually.
It's a league, and all the teams are at that location, so they're all home there. But they have an evening where they have us out also. I think they combine it with other characters, don't they? It's not just Star Wars. Or is it just Star Wars?
The last 2 times I was there was just Star Wars.
Okay, then they must have a separate, because I remember they have a night too where you see all Disney characters or something.
I know they just actually had a Harry Potter night, so they must break it all up into different themes now.
Sweet. So, regarding joining the 501st, what was there any particular what is the love of Star Wars you have? Like a particular movie, particular character? What about Star Wars got you wanting to go to this extreme to become a costumer?
I don't know. I just think the opening scene, of course, it's a battle between 2 spaceships, and then I'm not even sure if there's any words that are spoken except for maybe C-3PO, but then this whole battle takes place and there's not a human voice or whatever until after the battle, I think.
Yeah.
So, but even, and the first thing you see from the bad guys is, this really cool triangular Star Destroyer. And then when they capture the rebel ship, the white stormtroopers are like, oh, that's cool,
Yeah.
And even the rebel guys, I thought, wow, there's actually this gun battle. And you know what? If I were to do a rebel costume, it would probably be one of the rebel fleet troopers, the guys with the white helmets, and the blue shirts.
The ones that learn stormtroopers actually can hit their targets.
Yes. Yes. I don't know. And then they have, robots and androids, and it just hit me at a time that was like of peak interest.
Yeah, it was so groundbreaking at the time too. So for our generation, it just really captured us in so many ways. Not only did you have the power of the movie, but then you had the power of the toys. Where, the way George Lucas took over the marketing and merchandising of this movie had never been done before on the scale that he did it, and it just, we were at that ripe age where it was so perfect.
And I also think, a lot of people predicted it was going to be epic failure too, right?
Well, a lot of people passed on it for financing.
Yeah.
There are a lot of studios passed. There, a long time, I think it was Dennis Murin who said it. He was one of the original FX people for Skywalker or ILM before it was ILM. But he became, I actually got to meet him at Celebration Anaheim, which was awesome. But I believe it was him, but one of them said, we were too dumb to know we couldn't make this movie. Because everyone looked at it. Yeah, everyone looked at this and they're like, you can't do these special effects. What are you doing? And they were all fresh out of college, and they were all too dumb to know this movie couldn't be made, and they accidentally made it right. Because most of the techniques they invented.
Yes, yes.
Prior to that, everyone would, have the camera stationary, and you tried moving the ship. So that's why everything was a very static looking motion, and they came up with the idea of, well, what if we leave the ship still, but we move the camera? The effect will look like the ship is moving. And they invented these techniques that we now take for granted, but it just blew away anything that ever was. And for me, that love of Star Wars, and the music, when someone was in the changing room playing Star Wars music at the Maker Faire, and it's just amazing how that music is like, I can hear it, and I already know the full scene that's going on, the dialogue. I can hear it all in my head.
I think it's probably one of those instant classics, right? My mom doesn't like, science fiction. She's more into the Gone with the Wind classics or whatever it is. But when you hit that big opening note on Star Wars, she knows right away that's Star Wars, and she's never seen the movie.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the Imperial March. Vader, like she goes, that's, Darth Vader. She doesn't even know who Darth Vader is.
But she
just knows that he's that big bad guy, and he's got his own song.
Yeah. I want my own song. But you had mentioned the Rebel Legion. Your costume would probably be the Rebel Fleet Trooper.
Right.
For the 501st, you have 4 costumes. Is there a dream costume you want in the 501st?
I don't know. Stormtroopers pretty much the peak of it. Yeah. Maybe a First Order Stormtrooper, because that's the next generation Stormtrooper, and I don't see them, backing away from that. And that's so maybe it would be the First Order Stormtrooper.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, for me, I have a couple. I love, if you go with the prequels, I absolutely love Commander Gree. He's the clone with the green. His paint job is very hard to do, though, and very costly, is my understanding. But Commander Gree would be my clone that I really want to do. I also love the costumes of Inferno Squadron from the Battlefront 2 game. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like they're kind of like the Navy SEALs of the Empire, and they kind of have they've got the TIE pilot helmet, but they don't have the box that's connected connected. And then they have some really cool red and black color scheme, and then they have some extra pouches and guns and stuff too on top of it. So I think Inferno Squadron is my leading one, and then for more iconic, I really would love to do a Jango Fett costume. The Fets are very costly and hard to do too.
Well, I guess I also thought about one time possibly doing one of the Mandos. They have a bunch of because they're bounty hunters and whatever. I just thought I could get a bunch of little trophies and hang them on my armor, kind of like
do a necklace of like Ewok ears.
Yeah, something like that, or I guess sort of like a Predator type trophy collection. But I hear that some of that stuff was like against the rules in the Mando Mercs. So I just thought, well, what if I just build my own and not join?
Yeah, and that is an option too. You just make your own.
Yeah, and so if we want to stick with 501st or whatever, then like I said, First Order, but it's possible that I could do a Mando, my version. But now that the new movie's coming out, or the new TV series is coming out, I'm not sure how that would fit in, because there's going to be more people that understand. They're going to say, you don't fit, or what is this? You're not approved, and so I don't know if I want to deal with that.
Who are you, phony Mando?
Yeah.
But now on the Rebel side, those were my Imperial ones. I have a semi-completed X-Wing pilot costume. I got to get the undersuit. There's my helmet that I did. So I got to finish that up, and with the flow of money coming in from real estate, which if you need some, call me. I'm hoping to commission Jason Womack to do that, because he's a tailor and he does awesome work.
And he's a Garrison member.
He's a Garrison member, and if you need awesome work, he's at Stitch in Time. You'll have to Google him. I forget the location because he moved his shop. He has a new location about a year or so
out in the Lake Orion area.
Lake Orion, yeah. So Stitch in Time, look him up. He does amazing work if you need help with costumes. But that was an unpaid solicitation, but he does awesome work. So we only got about 9 minutes left here. Time flies when we're having fun. Now, you had mentioned about, you had recently gone to Star Wars Celebration Chicago.
Yes.
So that's a fun. For those who don't know, Star Wars Celebration is like the Super Bowl for Star Wars fans of our gatherings, and I was able to go to the one in Anaheim 2 years prior to that. That was. No, wait, was it 3 years? It was when Force Awakens was first previewed. So that might have been 3 years ago.
It might have been 3, yeah.
But anyways, I got to go to that one. The more recent one, Al was able to go to, and that was your first. Anaheim was my first. How was it going there as a fan in this Star Wars haven?
I tell you, I've heard about celebrations from a lot of the members in our group. I mean, some of these guys have been to 4 or 5. Some of them have even been to like almost all of them. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But this one was probably, actually, you know what? I never heard of Celebration until I joined 501st. So I've only known about it for 2 years, and I think this might have been the first one that I had enough time to organize. There, like the one that you
the Anaheim
did,
one, I think you were just starting to get involved.
Something like that. But there wasn't enough time for me, and I didn't understand what it was. And, but Chicago, of course, we're located just outside Detroit, so that's only a 4 or 5 hour trip.
That's not bad.
I think 30% of our garrison actually ended up going.
What's nice is you could drive and bring your armor. For me, I had to fly, so I had to figure out how to pack my stormtrooper gear into luggage, which I was terrified that TSA would ruin it. Thankfully, it survived, but I definitely would have preferred if I could have drove the armor.
Yeah, so we basically got a room on site at the McCormick Center, the Hyatt that was there. We jammed 5 people in there. I mean, we were sleeping on top of chairs, suitcases, whatever it was, just to cut costs. Parking, we prepaid it, months in advance, and so we did our homework and got our costs down. And wow, it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
the amount of props. When I say props, I don't mean like, the toy blasters and stuff. I'm talking like movie sets. What those guys from Norway brought the entire interior of a Millennium Falcon.
When you have a whole show geared towards people who are fanatics about getting details right, you end up with these amazing, basically life-size dioramas that we're allowed to play in, get photos in. The photos look like you're actually inside the Millennium Falcon and other things.
Right. So
was the Rancor there? The life-size Rancor?
No.
Yeah, he was at ours. It's amazing.
But they did have a life-size TIE fighter.
That's right. And X-Wing. Didn't they have an X-Wing?
Oh, yeah, they had a life-size X-Wing.
See, I was so jealous seeing those pictures. And of course, everybody with a Rebel pilot costume was taking pictures there.
They took their group shot in front of it. Yeah. So, I don't know, 50, 60 or whatever. And they also had the tank from Rogue One there.
I believe that tank is drivable, too. I think they can drive that.
Oh, yeah.
I think they had that at the Joliet library troop there.
Yeah. So it was... I ended up working this place called, the Endor Bunker, which is, if you remember in Return of the Jedi, it's where, Han Solo was trying to break in through the back door to get to the shield generator.
Right.
And from that place, the backside of the risers or the seats to the panels was right there. I couldn't see anything that was going on, but I could hear everything that was.
And you could hear the excitement.
Yeah, I couldn't exactly hear all the details. Like all I heard was, and then all of a sudden the whole crowd was.
All right, but you were feeling that energy.
Yeah, and I know that, Episode 8 was a little bit, controversial. It kind of splits fans down the middle.
Right.
But after hearing all the roars from Episode 9 and...
because the trailer was... You were hearing the reactions of the first reveal of the trailer they were doing.
Yes, that's where they introduced it, and they had brought out a bunch of celebrities. I think, like I said, I couldn't see them. I can only hear... and they really had the crowd going, and then they were showing the clips, and then I did hear that final Emperor's laugh loud and clear from that, and then I could hear the whole audience like, oh, or whatever,
right.
And there was so much buzz in that building. No matter where you were, even if you couldn't see it, you could at least hear it.
Right. I saw a clip where somebody videotaped where it was playing on some of the monitors too, and you just saw everyone was stopped and staring, and then the reaction points were cool too, hearing what moments everybody cheered or gasped or whatever, but especially that final laugh is where it's like you think, okay, that was a cool trailer, and it fades to black, and then you hear the Emperor laugh. And all of a sudden everyone just explodes.
It's and then I'm not exactly sure at what point they actually brought out Ian McDermott. I don't know if he was already on stage or he came out.
My understanding is if I remember right, I think he came out and everyone cheered when they saw him, and then he goes, "Play again," or something in the Emperor's voice, and then they do it again. But we don't really know much about Episode 9. They've been keeping it under wraps, so really there's not much to talk about. We only have the one teaser trailer they've done. I'm guessing next month, which is in 2 days, Disney has their D23 conference / event. That's basically Disney's version of Star Wars Celebration. My guess is they're going to have some big reveals there. Now at San Diego Comic Con, they did reveal the new Sith Trooper, as they're calling it. We don't know what role they play. They are saying Sith, which is the first time they've used that term in any of this final trilogy. I'm curious to see if they work directly for the Emperor. My only disappointment is to me, I mean, the First Order is a different branch from the Empire. It's not the Empire. So I don't understand why the Emperor's troopers would have the same design as the First Order. To me, it should be more, they should have gone back to the original TK design. Because it's not like he's been alive for these last 30 years designing armor. So wouldn't it make sense he would have more of the old style? I don't know. That's just my thinking. But we really don't know anything else, though. But I know I'm excited.
Yeah, like I said, I was probably in the crowd that was, not really, enthusiastic after episode 8.
Right.
But after hearing what was going on, I mean, I really just wanted to get in there and find out what is going on.
Where was this excitement coming from?
Yeah, but I'm also one of those guys that I haven't seen a single trailer or anything. I like the mystery.
You like the mystery. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm somebody who tries to find out all that stuff, and there really isn't anything out there yet. So, we'll have to wait and see. But we are quickly running out of time. So, just any exciting things coming up you want to announce? Any troops coming up that people can know about?
I think the next major one is going to be at Cobo Hall, downtown Detroit.
That's for the Michigan Comic Con. Yep. And
I don't remember the exact dates on that. I want to say it's the 16th and 17th or something like that.
Yes, it's around mid-August.
Yeah.
So whatever that weekend is, Michigan Comic Con, it's at Cobo. It's a nice event. This will be its second year. I'm not set up as an artist right now, so I am. If I'm not, I'm going to be trooping over there.
Okay.
If a table opens up, then I'll be there as an artist. But are you doing Michigan Comic Con?
Yes.
So Dominic will be there. Did they assign table numbers or?
Yep, I don't remember.
All right. Just look for the giant Ravager head, and Dominic will be there. Any other shows coming up for you?
It picks back up again in October. New York and Chicago.
This is kind of, things tend to slow down. That 3 or 4 weeks after San Diego Comic Con, there seems to be this lull that happens. So. Yeah, right? Exactly. It's like Dominic's like, I just need to be home for at least a week. But
you're not doing Capital City then in mid-September?
No, I'm going to be at Windsor Comic Con, I believe.
Oh, you're doing that one?
Yeah.
Oh, is that the same weekend?
I need to hear how that one is.
Well, I'll be there with Darren McCarty next to me so it's going to be a little bit.
Dominic's a little bit of a big thing now. He's like, I'll be bringing him along. We'll have to get you talking. What do you call it? Cutting a promo or whatever you call it.
So Darren McCarty walks around and says, I'm with him.
Everyone's like, why?
But on that note, Brett will be back in the studio next week where we'll have more fun topics to discuss with all of you out there. So until then, Dominic, take us out.